Good evening. Today is March 12th, 2024. It's 7:03. We call the District 28 Board of Education meeting to order. Chrissy, will you please take the roll?
Member Cassidy?
Here.
Member Beef Tank?
Here.
Member Arms?
Here.
Member Silvershack?
Here.
Member Baser?
Here.
President Gallinson?
Here.
And absent is Member Weinstock.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And just a quick matter of housekeeping for those who are speaking on the board side and the admin side, just a reminder to keep your microphones on when you speak and turn it off when you're done. Thank you. The first order of business is visitors' comments. Do we have any visitors?
Kate Swees, and I am one of the Meadowbrook PTO co-presidents. I also have 3 students at District 28, 2 at Meadowbrook, and 1 at Northbrook Junior High. Last month, some of our teachers spoke to the board about their concerns around crowding and increased class sizes at Meadowbrook. I'm here today to emphasize my support for our amazing teaching staff and to echo their concerns. Meadowbrook currently has 453 students compared to 352 at Greenbrier and 412 at Westmore. In addition to the highest number of students, Meadowbrook also has the smallest square footage of all of the District 28 schools, per the presentation given in the January Board of Education meeting by DLA Architects. Based on the student populations and school square footage, Meadowbrook has approximately 140 square feet per student compared to 163 at Westmore and 207 at Greenbrier. Due to the smaller space and higher enrollment, 7 of our classes have numbers above the targeted threshold of 20 students per class. We know Ms. Garza has plans to alleviate crowding issues, and I have every confidence in her ability to find the best solutions possible. As parents, we want to ensure that increasing class sizes is not part of that plan. We love Meadowbrook and the teaching staff there who go above and beyond for our children every day. We want them to continue to be positioned to do their jobs the best they can, and we believe that ensuring small class sizes will allow them to do so. We do realize that there are no easy answers in terms of space issues, but enrollment at Meadowbrook is projected to increase 10.6% over the next 5 years, and so we feel it's a topic that should be addressed sooner rather than later. We are lucky to live in a school district as excellent as District 28, and we hope the board will consider our concerns to ensure a bright future for Meadowbrook. Thank you.
Thank you. Other visitor comments?
Shouldn't have done that. Hello again. My name is Maggie McElvain, and I'm the parent of 3 District 28 graduates. I've owned property in District 28 for 37 years, and I'm a 2nd grade teacher at Meadowbrook School. I'm here not only to address the current administration's plan for continued larger class sizes for the next school year, but also to address the lack of communication from our administration to parents and staff regarding class sizes at the elementary level, as well as the lack of space to provide equitable and adequate education to our students, specifically at Meadowbrook. This past week at a staff meeting held at Meadowbrook, our building administrators shared that because of the lack of space at Meadowbrook, there is no plan to increase the number of class sections, and that administration and scheduling wouldn't allow it. So next year, Meadowbrook will remain at 22 sections, with class sizes reflecting a 25 to 30% increase since the 2022-2023 school year, the year this administration took over. As new families with children move into the district, these additional children will be placed into existing classes, increasing class sizes even more. By next school year, we could easily have classes as big as 24, well above the target number of 20, well above the class sizes of 16 to 18, which are optimal class sizes for learning, and the average class size in District 28 until this administration took over. My question is, why has there been no explanation by the administration and Board of Education for these changes? Why isn't our space issue at Meadowbrook being addressed right now? What is becoming an even bigger issue is the lack of trust we educators, parents, and staff feel about the current administration. Last September, Dr. Pearson came to Meadowbrook. He would not take questions from teachers, but promised to come to our building throughout the school year to hold informal coffees with staff to answer questions and concerns about the lack of space, equity across the buildings, and increasing class sizes. We were told that he would be in our building every 3 weeks throughout the school year to see what learning at Meadowbrook looked like, But to date, Dr. Pearson has not come for coffee with teachers, nor has he visited classrooms as promised. It's March 12th, 122 days since school began, and no Dr. Pearson. At February's board meeting, Katie Wetter invited all of you to come inside our school to see what happens each day, to see how hard teachers and staff are working to provide instruction and differentiation in our crowded and small space. But to date, few, if any, have come. Last summer, we were told that areas of need had been identified and that adjustments would be made, but that never happened. During our teacher contract negotiations, Dr. Pearson would not place a cap on classroom sizes. It was a non-negotiable. So we have little or no faith in the administration's word that even 20 students per classroom will be honored. Our district's revenues over the past 2 years are up. Meadowbrook hasn't seen an increase in space since 1994, and yet we continue to pay consultants to come up with plans. We don't need consultants and plans made without stakeholders' input. What we need is strong leadership right now. We need a leader willing to come into our school and to talk to teachers, staff, and families. One who will face the issues of space and class size head on, not sit in an office and pay consultants who tell us that our current facility can absorb 50 to 60 additional students. That finding in itself is ludicrous, and yet we paid a consultant for it. We need answers. We need action. We need strong communicative leadership right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Other visitor comments? No? Okay. Next is the superintendent report. Dr. Pearson.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go a little bit out of order because I'd like to begin with an introduction this evening. We actually have with us tonight the person who we're recommending as our new Director of Technology. As you know, Judy Epke is retiring at the end of the year, and so we have been through a process to identify our new Director of Technology, and she has joined us this evening. Maria Stavropoulos is actually coming to us from District 214, where she's currently working, and prior to that, she was in Prospect Heights District 23. I actually ran into the superintendent of 214 last week at a meeting, and he stopped me and said, "Are you taking Maria?" And I said, "Oh, yes, I am, actually." And so he was sad to see her go, and we're thrilled to have her joining our team. She's actually brought a couple of people with her tonight, and so we'll let her come and introduce herself, and then also the folks that she's brought along with her this evening. So Maria, if you'd like to come to the microphone.
Dr. Pearson said, I'm Maria Stavropoulos, the future incoming tech director, and I'm honored to join the team and most of all the community, because that's what we're here for, is the families and the students. And I'm looking forward to working with all of you as we all embark together on the new strategic plan and keep building upon the great things you've done and improving where we need to improve, because no school is perfect, and I know we have room for growth everywhere. So I thank you all, the interviewing committees, all of you that voted me in or selected me, and of course my family, my husband Nick, my son Thano, and Pano, who always hear about school at home, you know how it goes. They always get entertained. How does your district do it, Mom? However, my oldest will be thrilled that I'm leaving the high school district he's attending, so he doesn't have to see me around. Made a rough freshman and sophomore year for him, but he's free. So Mom's going back to elementary school. He can stay in high school. Thank you, and I look forward to getting to know everybody more in person as I come on board. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Maria will be starting on July the 1st with us, and she'll tonight you have a one-year contract to approve for her, and so I recommend that the board approve Maria's contract for 1 year beginning July 1st.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve the contract for the Director of Technology?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Member Baser?
Aye.
Member Beeftank?
Aye.
Member Arms?
Aye.
Member Silvershack?
Aye.
Member Cassidy?
Aye.
President Gallinson?
Aye.
And absent is Member Weinstock.
Thank you. Welcome to the district.
Congratulations, Maria. We're happy that you're here, and we look forward to working with you. And I know you and Judy will work closely together as you transition to come to the district. So thanks so much. So our next order of business tonight is for us to talk just a little bit about the Student Services Opportunity Review that you have included in your packet, and actually it's on for approval as a part of the consent agenda this evening. We have actually asked for District Management Group to come in and help us look at our Student Services Department, our staffing, our workload, to kind of better understand what our needs are and also to find areas and opportunities for efficiencies. I think one of the things that we continue to hear as we've talked with staff and as we've looked at the issues there is that we continue to have increasing needs of our students, and we want to make sure that we have the best programs and services in place to meet those needs. We'll be looking not only at our student services, our special education student services staff, but also at our MTSS processes, as well as our other support services, including things like reading specialists and math specialists, anyone that is involved in supporting student learning outside the classroom teachers. And so one of the nice things is this team will come in and work with a guiding coalition of our staff, of our teachers, to help us understand what their needs are and to begin to look at best practices across the country to make some recommendations to our team to figure out what makes the most sense as we think about our next steps. So that is included as part of the packet or part of the consent agenda. Their work would begin here in the district in April, and hopefully they would conclude sometime the beginning of the summer, and then we would have a report to kind of inform our planning and thinking beginning next school year. So that is something that we are recommending that the board approve. Are there any questions for me about that piece?
I do have one question. I'm not sure, having not been on the board long enough of the history of this, but as anyone here is aware that for student services, do we do anything cyclical of these sort of reviews and consultations the way we do with parts of the academic side of things?
I don't know if one has ever been done here in District 28. I think it's pretty typical for districts to do this periodically. I'd say every 5 to 10 years. I think one of the things that we've become aware of over the past few months and years is that we've seen some changing needs of students in our district. We've brought some programs back from True North. We're providing some services inside the district that we've typically outsourced. And so we're in a good place to actually have someone come in and look at our programs and services to ensure that we have best practices in place. I will say that any district that I've been a part of, we've done this at least once in my time there. I know District Management Group has worked both with Highland Park and Deerfield, which are neighboring districts, to do the same process. So it's pretty typical. And Kelly, you are ready to speak, so I don't know if you have information about whether this has been done before.
There was what you would call an internal audit that was done several years ago, actually over 10 years ago, in collaboration with True North, where we brought in team members from them that led a very similar type of process. I think it's, as Dr. Pearson said, I think we're due to do that again as we think about the shifting needs that are impacting classroom teachers as well as other staff. And we've seen that shift over time, I think also in the number of students that we're serving in student services.
Could I ask how this particular firm was chosen, and have they worked with other districts in our area?
Yeah, I think they were chosen for a couple of reasons. One is because they do have experience in Illinois with districts very close to us. We heard from districts that used them. Actually, when I saw the 214 superintendent, he mentioned that in his former district they had done the same audit for them and how helpful it was to them. I think the other reason they were selected is because their experience is also across the nation. They work in a lot of districts that look like Northbrook, many suburban districts to major metropolitan areas. They're actually a Harvard-based firm out of Boston, so they have a lot of perspective to bring to the district. And I think it's important that as we work with an organization that they understand our community and what our needs are and kind of what districts that look like us, they're able to bring that perspective to the conversation. So I think it's a combination of their experience in Illinois, the fact that they have worked with 2 neighboring districts of ours and done successful audits for them, and then their kind of broader national perspective looking at similar districts.
Thank you.
Dr. Pearson, in terms of the cost of the proposal, in the memo for the board, is there also grants or other offsets
Yeah,
for
so-
the 85,000?
Yeah, we're actually able to pay for half of the audit with grant dollars, so we can use our federal grant money to help us with this. And ultimately, it will more than likely find efficiencies for us in programming or services and could result, I don't want to make promises, but could result in some cost savings in the long run as we kind of align our programs and services in the district.
I have a question. So in relation to the scope of services, I've talked about where we have to engage, additional providers outside of the district. Will they be doing that type of evaluation of the other vendors through student services that we work with?
I think one of the things, to my understanding from looking at even the report that was completed for Deerfield when they most recently went through this, they will take a look at how we are serving students, look at students that we're sending out of the district. They're not going to get into the in-depth look at the services they're receiving, but they will look at our decision-making process around how we're placing students. And so there will be a connection, I think, to some of the things that we've talked about around where we're able to serve students in and or out, and there may be some recommendations that can come out of it as we think about our future programming within the district as well. For those students, I should say.
Okay, thank you.
I think I'd like a better understanding of how much of their focus is on improving efficiency. I think that one of the things that really sets this district apart is our student services. And, talking about sort of level setting us according to how other districts are doing it, financially that would be a wonderful thing to do, but in terms of what this district does and what this district offers and how it supports students, it just concerns me. It's a tremendous amount of money to spend to have an outside organization come in, talk to us about educational best practices, which we know, right? We may struggle to implement them, but we don't not know what they are. And so I just wonder, is their main impact improving efficiency, decreasing staff, increasing teacher-student ratio within student services? And I also wonder, their report speaks about how their practices have resulted in improved student outcomes, but I don't see any evidence of that, and I just wonder where that is.
Yeah, so I think they certainly could provide us with some information about where they've helped districts improve student performance. Or I wouldn't. There have been times that I think they've been able to recommend actually increases in staffing because they feel like in districts students are underserved or they're under-resourced. So I don't know that our objective or outcome necessarily is for efficiencies or increasing, staff workloads. As a matter of fact, I think our objective is to better understand how our staff is being used. One of the conversations that we've had ongoing, and actually it's part of our work with the teachers union in the next year, is to really understand workloads for student support services, like how they're using their time, how much of that time is spent on paperwork versus direct service to students versus time in IEP meetings. They do a nice comprehensive analysis for us about how we're utilizing, staff time so that we could potentially increase the amount of time that they're actually providing direct service to students as opposed to spending time in kind of administrative overhead kind of responsibilities. I think if, anybody that works in student services knows that continues to increase and become more and more voluminous with time and paperwork kinds of things. And so we want to make sure that if there are opportunities for us as a district to try to streamline some of those processes for staff, that we can do that so that they have more time to work directly with students. I don't think any of us have a goal of trying to be necessarily more efficient from a cost savings perspective. It would be great if we were able to find some ways that we could do that. But at the same time, I think we're more interested in ensuring that our staff feel supported, that they feel like they have the time to do the work that they need to do with our students. And I think if you talk to them right now, they feel like that workload continues to increase. And our solution at this point has been to continue to add staff so that we make sure that we're meeting the needs of students. students. And although that is sometimes a good temporary solution, I don't know that that's a sustainable solution for us. And really understanding this from a variety of perspectives and looking at that ratio is going to be critical. And, you know, at the end of the day, they'll make some recommendations to us. They'll provide a report. They'll meet with our staff members and kind of understand the needs. And then it would be up to the administration and the board to make decisions about whether or not we want to make any of those changes. I do think the perspective that they bring to us, not necessarily just about best practice, because you're right, we do have access to that information, but because they've worked in a lot of districts that look like our district, that are very similar in demographics and priorities, I think that that perspective actually strengthens their ability to provide us with good input.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I wonder also, just in my time with the board, whenever a big contract like this has come up, we have looked at multiple options. And I wonder, were there other options that we looked at, and for whatever reason we decided that they weren't equal and didn't want to bring it to the board, or did we not look at any alternatives?
We really did not look at another organization. I am aware of one other out of Wisconsin, Madison, that does this kind of work. And the Boston group, which is another group, it's not the same organization, that also does this kind of work. The Boston group tends to be much more expensive, and their experience is in more large urban district kinds of settings. We're talking like CPS, Miami-Dade, LA Unified, those kinds of districts, which would not be probably fit us very well. I think the other reason we looked at DMG is we actually are a member of District Management Council as a district. We have been, and so that membership allows us access to professional learning support from them. They do a variety of consulting services, so the fact that we have that membership, and then also the fact that they have worked in districts close to us and been successful, I think is the reason we suggested them.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? And Dr. Pearson, were you finished with your superintendent report?
I just wanted to mention one
Okay.
other thing, which was related to the strategic planning process. I think at our last board meeting, I mentioned that we had another big meeting of our group, and that's actually this Thursday. On March the 14th, we'll be meeting together to do the setting directions part of the process. Then they will spend some time kind of refining the strategies and action steps, and the board will be seeing a draft in April and hopefully approving a new strategic plan at the May board meeting. And that concludes the
Can I just make
superintendent's
a
report. Yeah, sure.
comment about that? So the survey that went out on kind of where we're already at with the choices, I really liked it. I thought it was a very interesting way to get the feedback from the community without going through all of the things that the committee went through, you know, to what would you exclude and what would you include. So hopefully that will result in, you know, more useful and usable feedback from parents and the community. So I don't know who's responsible for that, but, you know, I thought it was really good.
Great, thank you. The next item is the approval of minutes from the regular meeting, February 27th. Does anyone have any feedback or comments on the regular meeting agenda? I'm sorry, minutes? Okay, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Member Silvershack?
Aye.
Member Baser?
Aye.
Member Cassidy?
Abstain in absence.
Member Beeftank?
Aye.
Member Arms?
Abstain.
And President Gallinson?
Aye.
And absent is Member Weinsack.
Thank you. Next is approval of the consent agenda. I reviewed the bills this month and everything was in order. It was a short month. Our last board meeting was only 2 weeks ago. Any other questions or comments on the consent agenda?
Can we pull the number 4, Student Services Opportunity Review, DMG group, from that?
Sure.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Do we have a excuse me, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda, items 1 through 3?
So moved.
Second.
Member Cassidy?
Aye.
Member Baser?
Aye.
Member Beeftank?
Aye.
Member Arms?
Aye.
Member Silvershaft?
Aye.
President Gallinson?
Aye.
And absent is Member Weinstock.
Do we have any further comments on the Student Services Opportunity Review DMG Group item?
Yes. I know it's said, you know, they've addressed it, DMG Group has addressed it in the report, but I would like, I feel I need a clearer understanding of what it is exactly that they can offer through this audit that we cannot, that we cannot do without them.
Yeah.
I would add to that if there is another organization that does this well, it seems like it would behoove us to get another proposal.
Any other questions?
I'm also curious, I know you mentioned Deerfield and Highland Park have done this. I'm curious if, what other comparable districts have done something like this as well, beyond those two, if any?
You mean in Illinois or
Yeah.
across the country? So I know they've done Indian Prairie and Huntley also.
Okay.
So Indian Prairie's cost a lot more because it's such a large district.
Mm-hmm.
They were actually the first district in Illinois that I was aware that they did. And then Huntley recently, within the last few years.
I'm just, I've never heard of anything like this before, and I'm wondering how common it is. That's where the question is coming from.
Like I said, I think I've done it in
Yeah.
every district that I've ever been a part of,
Right.
with some organization, because I think there's always opportunities for kind of programmatic improvements as well as efficiencies. I think one of the other pieces and one of the reasons that we were excited that they could work with us is they have some proprietary software related to staff scheduling, where people are able to enter their scheduling information. I think it was explained in the proposal, and then we're able to run an analysis of how people use their time, because one of the things we're looking for is increasing opportunity for staff to work with students, and to better understand kind of where we're asking them to use their kind of more administrative time, whether it be doing paperwork or, sitting physically in IEP meetings, how much of their staff time is being used for that. And so that's another piece of their proposal that was positive for us. So.
Well, and another, I think, item to mention is at the same time, Kelly and her team have been working really hard to balance things like preparation time and other rest time. We are absolutely, aware of and acknowledge the burden that student service teachers have faced. And so we are looking for ways that we can increase support and increase time as the district sort of embarks on this discovery process around plan time, which we've discussed as part of the overall discussions that we've had as a district. And so I think it's important for us as a district to really be objective in that process, and to be thoughtful and take a step back, because I think that Kelly and her team have taken many steps to do so internally, and the resources are limited for us to continue to push in multiple directions. And so in my perspective, to take time away from our leaders, both within the school as well as Kelly and her team, to continue to look for operational efficiencies and to look for ways to continue to support the teachers and the support staff around student services, in my mind, really is deserving of attention, as well as sort of this big picture and step back and really find more creative ways. And I think that that's incumbent upon us to acknowledge that we need to be continually improving in this area, and we don't have the answers right now. And that's not because we haven't tried, it's because it's a very challenging area. And so I think that we need to be mindful of all of the steps that have been taken to this point, and encourage continued improvement and continued resourcefulness through outside consultants.
I think do you know if this organization has an exemplar report that they've created for another district so that we could see if they're really offering creative solutions rather than just what is concerning me, and I don't even know what question to ask except that this is a really expensive contract for something that I don't think we know a ton about.
Yeah, I think, Kelly mentioned that she's reviewed the Deerfield report. I've talked to superintendents who have used them. I've known the organization for a long time now. So I've participated in some of their professional learning for district level staff in the past, and they provide really high quality work. Like I mentioned, it's a Harvard-based team, so they have access to really great people. John Kim, who is the CEO, is actually a professor at the Harvard Business School, and provides some connections to some of those resources.
Can I ask, are they all out of the business school, or any of them out of the
No,
education
John
school?
is. A lot of the people that work for DMG directly are education related, but John, who is the CEO and founder of District Management Group, is from the business school. Because I think part of what they do also for districts is help them, on the district management side of things, looking at kind of organizational efficiencies, finance. They do academic ROI kind of work, as well as scheduling. They work a lot with secondary scheduling. So they have a lot of different programs. I think for me, it's the fact that they, again, work in a lot of very high achieving districts, Connecticut, the suburbs of New York City, the suburbs of Boston. And so they have historically provided good information and come highly recommended. So those are the pieces that I look at when I bring a recommendation to you. I think for me, in this particular case, they also do strategic planning work, and I didn't look at them for that because they are more expensive, and I felt like the product that we get from CEC is going to be comparable to what they would provide in that area. I think for me, this recommendation was really based on their ability to help us analyze the workload of our staff with this proprietary software that they have, and really understand how people are using their time, and help us think about how we could maybe support them differently to ensure that they have the right amount of planning time for working with staff, as well as providing services to students. So those were the pieces to me that were more unique. I've done one with Boston Group before, much more expensive process, and honestly, I didn't feel like it offered any recommendations that we wouldn't have been able to do ourselves. And then the other group that I know about is out of University of Wisconsin-Madison. There's a couple of professors there that have a background in student services. So those are the only three that I'm aware of that do this kind of work. So that was the reason I brought the recommendation, because I felt like their ability to do this analysis on a staff member by staff member basis, which is part of the reason why it's so expensive. I mean, it takes a lot of time to do that level of analysis, is really what we need as we think about that workload piece, because that's what we continue to hear from our student services staff, is they don't feel like they can get everything done that they need to get done. We don't have equitable plan time for those staff members as we think about, staff across the district. And then there, just the voluminous increase in the compliance side of special education as we think about IEPs and the amount of time that we spend in IEP meetings and having conversations about providing those services to students. I think it would be value added.
I also noticed in the email, though, it does say that they begin the work in April with results and recommendations in early summer. which seems like a very quick turnaround time for that kind of, I mean, I'm not for drawing something out, but there's a lot of data you're looking to collect and a lot of information. And they're, for an $85,000 contract, that's a pretty quick turnaround time with recommendations.
I'm wondering if a representative from the DMG group would be willing and able to present to the board.
They would be happy to do that.
I think I'd be interested
I
in
have
that.
seen them do that in the past.
I think so too.
That's the question that you have to decide. It will delay. I'm happy to pull this and have them come and do a presentation. It would not be until the April meeting, which would mean we would not be able to do this work until next school year. Because the April meeting is at the end of April. I don't know if you would be ready to approve it at the point that they're presenting to the board. So then that would be a end of May approval. It would be sometime in the fall process for us, which is fine. I actually debated with them about their timeline. I think they were excited to start the work, so they were willing to go ahead and expedite the process for us. I think there's a workload committee already with the association, and they're looking at special education workload, and we felt like this would dovetail nicely with their work, but they're ready to get started. So it'll just postpone our timeline.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Um,
Yeah, we'll just pull it, we'll
Okay.
bring it back
We'll bring
to
it
the
to this,
April meeting. Mhm.
Thank you.
Next is staff and committee reports. Jessica and Finance.
Good evening. Tonight, there's no finance report as we just had our last meeting and we're still working on some financial statements for the month ended February 29th. So first up for finance is the E-rate contracts. So E-rate is a federal program that's run for schools and libraries for technology services. We receive a 40% discount based on our low-income population for the work we contract through this process. This year we bid 3 projects. We did labor and parts for fiber optic cabling reterminations, which in our non-tech terms means moving cables in our closets, which is necessary. Wireless access points, switches and related components, and firewall with software and licenses. So for the cabling work, we only received one responsive bid for $3,726. Based on the estimate of the cost to do that work, it was within reason, and we recommend moving forward with the contract with Total Infrastructure Solutions. 3 vendors submitted valid proposals. We had a 4th proposal that didn't include any money in it, so we couldn't evaluate it for what they were actually trying to sell us. This proposal is to replace our 235 wireless access points throughout the district. The ubiquities we have throughout the district are 6 years old, so they've reached the end of their useful life as technology is rapidly changing. CDWG was the most competitive and responsive to the needs that were outlined in our RFP for $200,814. We recommend moving forward with that. And the final piece was for a new firewall device. Part of the work we're doing this summer is increasing our bandwidth to the internet. So all of these components can take the additional bandwidth that's moving through the district. So we will need a new firewall to help protect us as well. CDWG was the lowest with $22,612, and that included the licenses and software. So total total for those three projects would be $227,182. With our 40% discount, the final total out of pocket will be $136,309. If approved, we'd move forward with scheduling and ordering for work starting this summer.
Thank you, Jessica. Are there any questions on the E-rate contracts? And it looks like we have to approve each one separately, is that correct? Okay. We'll go item by item. Sub 1 is the contract for E-rate firewall. Do we have a motion to approve that contract?
So moved.
Second.
Member Arms?
Aye.
Member Cassidy?
Aye.
Member Beeftank?
Aye.
Member Silvershack?
Aye.
Member Baser?
Aye.
President Gallinson?
Aye.
And absent was Member Weinstock.
Thank you. Next is a contract for wireless access points and UPS. Do we have a motion to approve that contract?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Member Silvershack?
Aye.
Member Beeftank?
Aye.
Member Arms?
Aye.
Member Baser?
Aye.
Member Cassidy?
Aye.
And President Gallinson?
Aye.
And also absent was Member Weinstock.
Thank you. And finally, we have a contract for E-rate infrastructure project. Do we have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Member Arms?
Aye.
Member Baser?
Aye.
Member Cassidy?
Aye.
Member Beeftank?
Aye.
Member Silvershack?
Aye.
President Gallinson?
Aye.
Absent was Member Weinstock.
Human Resources report this evening?
Yes, just want to mention, at our last meeting, we talked about our committees, and just want to mention our stipend committee met last week. We meet again on after the Institute Day on Tuesday, March 19th. Our Joint Insurance Committee is meeting tomorrow after school, and our Plan Time Committee meets a week from tomorrow after school. And just want to let you all know. Thank you.
And just to clarify, those are joint committees with the
With the union.
union. Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you.
Next is Student Services. Is there a report, Dr. Scull?
No report this evening, thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Raitzer, Michelle, any report this evening?
No new report this month.
Thank you. And I'll move to
Yes, just give me 1 second to connect. There we are. All right. So the Buildings and Grounds Committee met a couple of weeks ago, and we worked through a lot of the information in our 500-page facility report. A lot of information in there. So we're going to summarize the report then that was included in your report with this presentation, and then, of course, go ahead and ask questions as we go along. So this is how DLA broke out the work items needed at each of the facilities. It's just a reminder of how it all rolled up into one at each of the 4 schools. I'd like to point out that through conversations with the architects, reviewing some school code, some questionable items, some items that seem to be duplicated or not a district priority. And when I say not a district priority, there was one that was, $300,000 to fully enclose one of the school grounds in a fence. Like, that's just not a reality we're interested in right now. And some work that has already been done. So we've reduced the initial almost $80 million to $76 million worth of work in the district. We can, and again, we'll continue to look at and refine that information. What we've done is we've gone through the work matrix that was proposed and really plotted against the 10-year timeline work that needed to be done in the district to, we used we use the criteria of securing our building envelope, meaning, our roofs, our windows, the tuck pointing, making sure we're keeping water and the elements out of the building. We reviewed health, life, safety issues, safety and security issues, and of course, age and the condition of the equipment being replaced or repaired. So this is the timeline we're proposing for tackling the items that absolutely need to be done over the next 10 years for a total of $19.7 million. We're going to work on, and we're certain we can get the work done in each of the years as we've plotted it out. This will address things like roofs. As you'll see in the 2024 summer, we have roofs and HVAC that need to be repaired. So that's what this timeline does and breaks out the work. I already went through the criteria. So when we look at that $19.7 million worth of work, this is how we've kind of broken out how the different projects align, so that you can see, over the next 10 years, we're going to have to spend $7.5 million on roofing, $4.5 million on our HVAC systems, $2.3 million on casework, $1.2 million on parking lots and sidewalks, under $1 million on doors and wired glass work, tuck pointing, and $2.6 million on other items, a lot of plumbing, and over 10 years that can kind of add up. It seems like a large number to not be categorized in a bigger picture, but they tend to be littler things over time that add up. So this is how we've summarized it. In your board packet, it has the work matrix color-coded to this same schematic, so you can see how the projects align and how they were coded. Of the remaining of that $76 million, there's this $56 million that really requires further evaluation. We're going to need to engage in further conversations at the building and grounds level, at the board level. And some of the considerations is going to need to be funding. Like I said, we've taken $20 million of it over the 10 years and are addressing the projects absolutely need to be done, like roofs, air conditioning, heating, etc. When we look at the other projects that were recommended, we're looking at $15.5 million for the addition and renovation at Meadowbrook, $12.2 million for the addition of bathrooms and some classroom spaces and renovations at Greenbrier, $8.6 million in work here at the junior high, $2.4 million on just the bathroom renovations district-wide, so our plumbing in a lot of places is original to the building. And, we have interesting placement on some bathrooms, like here in the junior high. There are bathrooms on each of the levels, but there are also bathrooms in the stairwells, which are interesting placements, and some of the playgrounds. And then there are, $16.5 million in other items that didn't align into this kind of work, but you can see it in the larger packet of information. It's in the white after the grid plotted out over the 10 years. I also wanted to go through a history of the capital projects that we have completed in the district. In our buildings and grounds, we looked at 5 years in reviewing. I thought it would be healthy to go into 10 years back because we're looking 10 years forward. So this is a summary of work that we've completed over the last 10 years. Mostly, school construction happens over the summer, so very busy summer times. This year's budget totals $715,000, and next year we're projecting $1.3 million, which does align with what's in that 10-year plan. And then this summer's project and one of the next action items is to approve and start moving forward with the contracts to do this summer's work, which include roof replacements. RTUs are air conditioning units, Gym floors need to be replaced or refinished. Office space remodels, we're looking to get additional workspaces here in the district office and in the Greenbrier space, tuck pointing, asphalt, concrete repairs. It's a lot of information in this report. I kind of just plowed through this. The larger report, or the mini larger report, is in your board packet that shows how we've coded and broken out the work being proposed. Yeah.
Thanks, Jessica. I'm one of the board members that's on the committee, and this is a great job to really boil it down because we went through all 500 pages of it. I think it might be helpful for the other board members if you just maybe go back a little bit and just, I know you have the criteria listed, but $20 million is also a lot. Maybe just talk about like how we kind of got to, it's, the criteria is there, but there were also like categories of priority that were recommended, like safety, accessibility, and those type of things. And while 100% of that is not in the 19, and there are other things that are not included, I think maybe just a little bit more about the decision-making process for prioritizing would be helpful.
Sure. So the report we received did have priorities kind of 1 through 4. I think there might have even been a 5th that was kind of like a nice to have, which probably wound up in my not a priority category. We took health, life, safety issues very seriously, security and safety. A lot of the door work you see in there is all related to security. Accessibility issues we're wrapping in, and that's part of some of the conversations and discussions, and based on need, we're going to further look at. One of the things, when we employ a buildings and grounds professional, and any time we can secure the envelope has really been pounded into my head as like primary importance, along with safety, because our buildings are safer when our airflow is correct, when our ceilings are not leaking, etc. So we did take all of that into consideration, ADA issues, but part of the ADA issues, for example, weren't addressed because they're part of the bathroom renovations in some places. Now, we do have ADA accessible bathrooms on all floors at our schools, but we could go further, so we did balance that out. When we looked at the 10 years and really looking at work that needs to be done, we did look at age of like the boilers, the generators. When we lose power, what systems do we lose? Our security systems. We did quite a bit of work a couple of summers back with our security system, making them uniform throughout the district. We had previously had 4 separate security systems operating in the district, and we have itinerant teachers and different rules at different buildings on how accessible the building was. So we've done a large investment in security. There are some additional things recommended. We are very secure in our buildings, but there's always, how much further can we go?
I'll just also add just the level of thoroughness of the report, also included also just through all the interviews that they did with teachers and students and staff, even just making recommendations for how we would kind of, I guess, train or modify the behavior of individuals, as it relates to security especially. So those don't have dollar signs next to it, but there were also other elements that were included that are really important that we will also, be recommending and implementing, yeah.
I just want to echo that. The work, especially that went into that 10-year plan, the current 10-year plan, was a tremendous amount of work. And that table does not reflect the amount of work that went into getting that right. And I was really pleased with the process.
Jessica, can you speak to the space concerns that have been brought up a bit in relation to building renovations and where that will fall?
Right now, those are under the further consideration. Like I said, we've budgeted and projected out being able to absorb this $20 million worth of work that is crucial to the health and safety of the buildings itself. When we look at renovations and adding additional spaces, we're going to need to look at additional funding avenues. We don't have that money in the bank to do the renovations that are being recommended there.
Other questions? Other comments? Thank you. I know one idea that we have is to have an opportunity for a committee of the whole to have a specific discussion with regard to funding and board priorities. Obviously, we are entering into next year is a down year with financials, with the CPI tailing, so we have concerns, and we need to be mindful, and we also have, needs and priorities. So I just wanted to give the board, obviously since January and now this condensed recommendation and report, and we can have another meeting at giving the board some time to digest and have a discussion further. So I wanted to give everyone time and space to think about it, and then we can come back together for that. Thank you. Jessica, do you want to move on to summer projects if there are no further questions on the building, the facility master plan?
Sure. So in alignment with what you just saw, are taking large chunks of that work out and preparing and projecting it out for getting it done this summer. The number one thing is the largest project we have are 3 sections of the Greenbrier roof are failing and need to be failing in that they're not moisture secure. I'm losing the words right now, sorry. So we have a proposal from Tremco and going through Omnia Partners for $685,000. Omnia Partners is a nationwide purchasing cooperative, and Tremco has won the bid nationwide for that work, so it's already been competitively bid. We've done work with Tremco here in the district. They've done some of our other roofing projects. We are recommending moving forward with their contract for this work. This work is less than projected, and we're going to see that as we move through this process than on that 10-year plan. One of the benefits of going through a cooperative like this, and we did this last year with like the elevator work here, is we don't have to pay the additional contract fees for like an architect. We work directly with a design and engineer contract person with Tremco, and then directly hand in hand with our director of buildings and grounds. So this is a very competitive cost to get this work done this summer. We're recommending approval so we can start moving with the procurement of materials and scheduling it. Again, summer is a very busy time for summer school projects, so we also last year did some work with Thermosystems for rooftop units. They've provided a quote at Greenbrier School to replace the library rooftop unit, which we've identified as next and currently requiring the most amount of maintenance and repairs. As you we've talked about before and is reflected in the 10-year plan, we've plotted out our rooftop units over the 10 years by school to go into a cycle of replacing them. As you can see, they're expensive, and not all of them, but the majority of them are at the end of their useful life. They also use a refrigerant that's no longer manufactured. It's like buying the cooling agent on the black market, it feels like, because of the markup on it. So we're going to, we've been aggressively replacing these throughout the district. So that one is $85,676. We also have a room at Westmore School. It's kind of more central in the building, that has some issues with its temperature control and excessive noise. It's previously been a classroom that we've had to make then a conference space because it's too noisy. And when we evaluated the ductwork in there, both the architects and then Thermosystems have recommended this mini split unit, which is an air conditioned unit, just a different type of unit. So that's recommended for $56,875. The gymnasium floors for the two gyms here at the junior high and the Greenbrier gym are in poor condition, and as with wood floors, you regularly sand and refinish for upkeep and to keep the longevity of the floors intact. We did receive multiple quotes for this, but we are recommended moving forward with the lowest proposal, which comes from Consolidated Flooring of Chicago, which is also part of a purchasing cooperative, Sourcewell. Consolidated has done other work for us here in the district as well. The cost for all three gyms will be $84,864, but as we have a joint intergovernmental agreement for the Greenbrier gym, the Northbrook Park District will reimburse the district 50% of that project in the amount of $15,166. So we're looking at a total cost for those projects at just under $70,000. As I mentioned before when we were talking about the facility master plan and the 10-year, how we plotted that out. Greenbrier is in need of more private office spaces for our itinerant teachers and administrators in that facility. So what we're proposing is taking their conference room and dividing it into two offices, moving the workroom, making that their conference room, and then making their front office space smaller to incorporate the workroom and the reception area. We've not moved very far with that work, but we're seeking approval for an amount not to exceed $100,000. This is in the 10-year plan. It's slotted for 24 as we've have administrators and teachers sharing conference and open spaces. And you know, there's a need for some more privacy for services being delivered in that facility. And of course, as we receive the final figures and are moving forward or at a point with the work where we have some more actual numbers to show, we will bring it to the board and be sharing it with you. Here at the district office, we are, and in this space, renovations are scheduled in there as well. These spaces are inefficient and outdated. Like the Greenbrier project, there's several different components. We are looking to get some additional office spaces in here as we've moved some. Judy's office is currently in one of the schools. We'd like Maria to be central. So there's some moving of staff going around, and we're looking to incorporate this space too for an estimated cost not to exceed $150,000. And that is the large scope items. There's a lot of the smaller items that are included for summer work, and a lot of items that the PM work ticket and school dude, which is what we use for the buildings and grounds crew, is pretty full for the summer as well.
Thank you, Jessica. Does anyone have any questions with regard to the, I think there's 5 contracts or projects for consideration? Matt?
Is there anything more you can say about the district office renovation and what's included?
Sure. So here at the district office, this carpet is 20 plus years old. Faded is not replaceable anymore. So when we stain it or it's ripped and it is worn in several areas, there's no more attic stock to replace it. So we're recommending a floor replacement. Also, items like the ceiling and the lighting in here. The ceiling is sagging. It looks like it's a 2x2 grid, but it's really a 2x4, faked to look by a 2x2. So, do the ceiling in here, the fabric wallpaper, the cubicle spaces for the office staff. There are currently 6 spaces of all differing sizes in there, including one that's really just a little triangle desk. So some of the work includes putting 6 spaces that are equal in that main office space.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned the consolidation in one case of an office that's currently in one of the schools that's more administrative and moving it here. In relation to some of the concerns that have been brought up around capacity at Meadowbrook and other schools, has there been a discussion, or could there be a discussion about looking at any administrative office space, if there is any, that could be potentially consolidated from Meadowbrook to the district office?
Sure, that's a good question. So currently, the Meadowbrook office, the two administrators in that space, they are smaller offices there. That conference room doesn't have any windows, so we wouldn't. And it's in through the office, so it wouldn't really be a space where we could add a classroom. Other spaces we could look at include like the media center, but then we don't have a media center. So there's what we're talking about doing at Greenbrier is really taking away some spaces and dividing it up. We don't have that kind of ability with the way the Meadowbrook office is laid out. But it's a good question, and it was really part of a consideration to see what we could do.
Okay, I was just curious. Thank you.
Thanks. Anything else? Thank you, Jessica. We'll go one by one to approve the summer projects. The first summer project is a Greenbrier roof replacement. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Member Cassidy?
Aye.
Member Baser?
Aye.
Member Beef Tank?
Aye.
Member Arms?
Aye.
Member Silvershack?
Aye.
And President Gallinson?
Aye.
And absent is Member Weinstock.
Second item is the Greenbrier and NVGH gym floor refinishing. Do we have a motion to approve the contract?
So moved.
Second.
Member Silvershack?
Aye.
Member Baser?
Aye.
Member Cassidy?
Aye.
Member Beef Tank?
Aye.
Member Arms?
Aye.
President Gallinson?
Aye.
And absent is Member Weinstock.
Thank you. Next is the Greenbrier and Westmore rooftop unit replacements. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Member Beef Tank?
Aye.
Member Baser?
Aye.
Member Cassidy?
Aye.
Member Arms?
Aye.
Member Silvershack?
Aye.
And President Gallinson?
Aye.
And absent was Member Weinstock.
Thank you. Next is the district office project, not to exceed $150,000. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Member Silvershack?
Aye.
Member Baser?
Aye.
Member Cassidy?
Aye.
Member Beef Tank?
Aye.
Member Arms?
Aye.
President Gallinson?
Aye.
And absent is Member Weinstock.
And finally, the Greenbrier office project, not to exceed $100,000. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Member Cassidy?
Aye.
Member Silvershack?
Aye.
Member Beef Tank?
Aye.
Member Arms?
Aye.
Member Baser?
Aye.
President Gallinson?
Aye.
And absent is Member Weinstock.
Thank you. Moving on to legislation, are there any updates, Matt?
Just one thing really worth mentioning, although it hasn't passed yet, something that looks likely to pass is the state is looking to create a new agency called the Department of Early Childhood. There'll be a number of roles that have been done in a number of other agencies, some of which could affect some of the things that go on in the district that are being consolidated to that department. If the legislation passes, then by the summer, there would be some oversight agency changes in potentially having an operational effect. I don't know the details yet, it hasn't been passed, but it's just something on the horizon to keep an eye on. Other than that, the governor made his annual budget proposal, but it's just a proposal. He is proposing significant increases in evidence-based funding, but we'll see where that goes.
Thank you. Next is policy. We have the final reading and adoption of the policy handbook. Any questions for Edward or any questions with regard to the policy final reading and adoption?
I have one quick question, just because I don't know where this comes from.
Sure.
Is it our policy or is it state policy that board members can't vote by Zoom, for example, if you're sick or out of town? Is that something, because I see in here it says that's being maintained, but is that something we could discuss?
That is based on open rules. It's not our.
Okay, that's what I wasn't sure.
It's not our policy. Our policy follows the legislative mandate regarding open meetings.
Okay.
So that it specifically only provides for illness and not any other exceptions.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Sorry? Oh. Thank you for asking. Any other policies to draw attention to? No? Well, I think this is the final reading and adoption. Do we have a motion to approve the board policy manual as indicated?
So moved?
Second.
Member Arms?
Aye.
Member Cassidy?
Aye.
Member Beef Tank?
Aye.
Member Silvershack?
Aye.
Member Baser?
Aye.
President Gallinson? And
Aye.
absent is Member Weinstock.
Thank you. And this was an extraordinary amount of work for Edward and Chrissy and the team, so thank you for this. This will really improve both the access to policies on behalf of the community, teachers, and everyone here at the table. So having that update and having the access to press automatically is a really, I know, unexciting but big move for our district. So thank you for your time.
Can I ask, is there a plan to, beyond sharing this, to like educate people about what this includes?
There will be. We'll have some optional open meetings for staff who are interested in learning more about it. We'll also be sharing what you just approved tonight with the union as well.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
And when we launch the online version, we'll publicize it so that people are aware of the update and the changes. You know, it's the nice thing is it will be searchable now, so people will be able to find things by key terms or, you know, topics of interest, whereas before it was a static PDF document that you really had to know what you were looking for to go and find what you needed. So it's a huge upgrade, and President Gallinson really understated just the heavy lift that this was. We really needed like a band and some like streamers and ceremony, because basically you've just kind of worked through and updated your entire policy manual and made it more accessible, and it's a huge project. And I thank you to the policy committee members, and then of course to Edward and to IASB for helping us with getting this updated and ready to go. So big project.
Thank you. Terry, communications update.
Good evening. A couple of things. I did give you a little more detail on how we sought our community and staff feedback for the strategic plan. It was a short turnaround time, but that doesn't necessarily limit response. Sometimes the immediacy helps draw people to action, and we got some pretty decent response from that effort. I also wanted to point out that our Northbrook Junior High Independent Science Research students captured the Division C trophy at regionals last week, which was very exciting. That's based on the number of getting the most points of any school for the number of quality projects that they had at the fair. And many of them will be advancing to state next month. And finally, wanted to remind you and invite you that the Northbrook Junior High Spring Musical opens tomorrow, Singing in the Rain. I was at tech rehearsal today, and we got a really nice production. I hope you all can attend.
Thank you. Look forward to seeing more pictures and videos as well. Great. And I can't recall, Chris, if there was a True North meeting since we met?
Yeah, there
Okay.
was no True North meeting Wait, I didn't have this on, sorry, but yes, it just, more to come.
Thank you. We'll look forward to an extra report in April. Thank you. Is there any new business to be brought tonight? Okay, hearing none, we will move into closed session. We recommend the board go into closed session to discuss the employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district or legal counsel for the district, including testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee or against legal counsel for the district to determine its validity as authorized by statute, and the discussion of minutes lawfully closed under the Open Meetings Act, whether for purposes of approval by the body of the minutes or semi-annual review of the minutes as mandated by statute. Do we have a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Member Arms?
Aye.
Member Silvershack?
Aye.
Member Baser?
Aye.
Member Cassidy?
Aye.
Member Beeftank?
Aye.
President Gallinson?
Aye.
And absent was Member Weinstock.
Thank you, and we have no business after the closed session, so we will end the recording. Thank you for attending this evening, and have a good night.